I always wanted to ask somebody this. I mean, obviously, you are one of the best-known names in the world, both you and Yoko. And the question is there anybody you ever wanted to meet that you've never been able to meet?
Well, I mean, some of them I met this time, which was A.B. and Anita and Jerry Rubin, Andy Warhol and Zappa. In the space of 3 days I met all them, and I've been dying to meet them all for over a year.
Is there anybody left?
Let me think. Chairman Mao. I'd love to see him.
Also, Andy, you remember that you were surprised that he's so sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, that was another image shock, I must be a dummy, but...
Have you ever been dumbfounded by meeting somebody? I mean, by their presence?
I quite often am when I first meet them, When I first met Dylan, I was pretty dumbfounded, That was a few years back in New York. And I'm pretty much a sort of fan type myself, in a way, I mean, I never went... collecting people's autographs, any of that jive. But I really, if I dig somebody, I really dig them.
And the only time we collected autographs, remember, we were in a restaurant in London, and Ingrid Bergman was there, and I always admired her acting, So I just went up and said, could I have an autograph?
My husband and I admire you greatly.
It was a very sort of nerve-wracking experience, that I was on the other side, just to do that.
How long are you in New York for this time around?
I reckon we're here for, I'm hoping to extend my visa, but we've got until Tuesday, so hello, I'm off the mic, we've got until Tuesday so far. But I might go down to the West Coast to do some business there. Am I on? Is it all right? Yeah,
how do you feel about a time in your life where if you wore green shoes, the whole world started wearing green shoes?
Well, it's sort of...
If you shaved your head bald, the whole world started shaving its head bald.
Well, it still happens in a way. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I was off mic, folks. Engineer was freaking. I chopped all my hair off last December, and there was a lot of chopped heads started appearing, so I still have the old pelvis, But it is amazing, we used to sort of think, when we were with the Beatles...
Did you ever sit up late at night saying, what should we do next?
Right, almost, we think, hey, this will get... See if they all wear this,
Yeah, but these days we don't think of it so much, do we? We sort of got... we forget about it. I mean, you have to forget about it a little to live,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, to do things.
Because I just think that whole thing must... If you've probably been asked this many times, if you had it to do over again, would you?
Well, it's a hard question to answer. I don't regret anything I've done, really, except for maybe hurting other people or something like that, I wouldn't have missed any of it. I mean, I saw Veronica Lake saying it, and it was very sad to see it on TV once, She was telling the story of how she was sort of, treated like some kind of object, in Hollywood in the old days. But she looked very sad, and I was trying to say, well, what a great education it was, for those people that really got treated like muck in Hollywood in the old days. But I think I escaped before it was too late, So I didn't sort of spend my life in that scene. I only had a few years of it. But the scene is sort of more regrettable, the side of it is more regrettable. So I don't really regret anything.
Because the thing that I always said about the Beatles when the phenomenon was going on, that I never saw 4 people be that were thrusted into something like that, who handled it better. And then it turns out now, and as the stories come out, that it wasn't handled that well. I mean, that mentally you all kind of suffered in certain ways.
Oh, sure. I mean,
human.
Yeah, right. But I was amazed at the time. At least the impression was given that you were handling it beautifully.
Well, we were always pretty aware of what our effect was on people. I mean, you learn about, audience reaction or something, in your early days of playing, and you either get to be able to play an audience or the public, or you don't. So we're always pretty aware, in a way, of what we were doing, although it was pretty hard to keep up when you were sort of going at 2,000 miles an hour. Sometimes you got dizzy, But there wasn't often when we usually just hung together somehow, and there would always be somebody to lean on when there's 4 of you. There'd always be somebody that would be together enough to sort of pull you through different phases of it.
I think they handle it pretty well, actually. I mean, it's not like they didn't handle it well. I think they handled it and they managed it pretty well. It's just that they weren't satisfied with, just that, which is pretty amazing. I think it's good, that they weren't satisfied with it.
Good morning.
Good morning, yes. I'm in an impasse here. Are there questions, you've been interviewed time and time again. Are there questions you've ever wanted to be asked that nobody asks you?
No. I can never think of people asking me, no.
Wait to think of.
If there is a question, I wouldn't know at this time of day. I just haven't a clue, Let's play a record.
What I want to do is take some calls, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
talk to some people.
Yeah.
Put on those earphones.
Oh, remember...
Just happen to have our earphones with us.
Christmas record. I thought we wanted to...
How do you do it?
Oh.
Just one like that?
Yeah. Let's put it on.
Yoko,
there's a pair there for you.
Hey.
And,
You can do it.
Hold on.
Yeah, I forgot about
Have you got a pair? We're all tangled up in all kinds of stuff.
I'm coming.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello,
Good morning.
Yeah.
hello, John.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, first let's get the compliments out of the way. You're great and all that, right?
So are you. Thank you.
Okay. Now, your solo album, the one with God on it and everything?
Yes.
Now, when Yoko released her solo album, were the covers exactly the same? What was the reason for that?
The covers weren't exactly the same.
I know, like one you were leaning against the tree and the other she was leaning against the tree.
Well, because in a way, the albums were very similar, although, in a way, of course, they weren't.
There's connection.
If you play Yoko's album track for track alongside mine, the tracks tell the same story, just two artists telling it differently.
And also sometimes it's like a dialogue, when he's saying mother and I'm saying why, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, and we just wanted to be together, even though we weren't putting out the album together. We wanted to be together.
A lot of my friends bought that album by mistake.
Oh, well, that's very good. Maybe you learned something.
Could you conceivably play the two albums at the same time?
That would be great.
If you play them at the same time, because Paul is dead now, miss him, right?
Well, you see, we didn't plan it that way, but, it was really weird because when he's saying my mom is dead, I'm saying don't worry,
Right, it was really a moving album.
Yeah, you see, but if you really were sort of awake when he bought it, you would have seen it on the backside. There was a chick.
Right, there was a picture of you when you were a kid.
Yeah, right. Excuse me, morning. I just felt, you see.
Oh, I bought it early in the morning and I wasn't too awake.
Well, I hope you dug Yoko's album, you see.
Yeah, right. What did you think of McCartney's new album?
Well, I thought his other one was better, personally.
Really?
Yeah, I did like the thing about 3 legs. Some of it I didn't dig at all.
What did you think of Smile Away?
I don't remember that. It wasn't bad.
Oh, okay. And what kind of guitar do you use? Acoustic?
Acoustic, I've got a lot, you see. I use a Martin, and I think I've got a Gibson. I've also got a Yamaha. Over the years I've picked up many kinds.
Right.
But the guitar I like playing best at the moment is some old Dobro. Every musician in the rock scene's got one. I picked one up in LA last year, and it's a wide one. You can really howl on it. That's the one I'm using on Yoko's album, where it sounds like her voice.
Right, and who are some of the artists out now that you really dig?
Well, you have to give me a second, though, because people always ask me that, and I can't remember, and then when I get home, I can think of all sorts of people. I just saw Sly and the Family Stone on TV. I thought he was great. I love Zappa.
Right. That's why you went to this concert.
Yeah, Yoko and I performed it the other night. It was beautiful.
Would you say your head is basically at the same place as it was like when Rolling Stone interview was done?
Well, let's say, I'm nearly finished an album now, and although it's still me, it's very unlike the last album, whereas I'm just sort of a bit happier, Last time I was sort of, I'd just been through that therapy, etc., and I was full of, I don't know, it's almost not resentment, but I was full of the past, and it was all coming out of my mouth. But now I'm sort of just a bit more relaxed about it all,
Did any of the other Beatles play on your album? Because there was reports in Rolling Stones that you...
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure whether Ringo played on one track. I missed, but I have a lot of different people playing on the album this time. But George plays on about 4 or 5 of the tracks, and he does some mother solos, especially on one of them.
Does Phil Spector produce it?
Yeah, well, Phil produces it with Yoko and I, so as we don't go overboard and he doesn't go overboard. We get a nice balance between the three of us.
I found it really amazing, like the difference between your album and Harrison's album, being that, Spector had a hand in both of them.
Well, then, if you listen to my album and Yoko's album, you'll see where mine and Yoko's influence, and we've used what I consider the best of Spector.
Yeah, well, it sort of sounded like, Phil Spector has a habit of overproducing.
Well, not to sort of...
his hand up or something.
Well, I'm different from George, and I think both George and Phil have a tendency to go into the clouds with it. George is producing and him with production as well. But I mean, that's the way they dig it. They just go tripping off with all that millions of things happening.
Right.
I like a simpler.
Who wrote In My Life? You or McCartney?
What?
Who wrote In My Life?
I wrote In My Life. Yeah.
That's a beautiful song.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
That's about it.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
My guests are John Lennon and Yoko Ono, or in this days of women's lib, Yoko Ono and John Lennon. What?
Good morning, folks. Have you had your breakfast yet?
Yoko, how do you feel about women's lib?
Well, I'm just making a film about all about female lib,
Yeah.
I'm very concerned about it. About 3 years ago, I said in a magazine called Nova that woman is the nigger of the world,
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt that way. And luckily I have a husband who's very understanding about the subject.
Shut up, you bitch!
Like he's really into it too,
Yeah.
And we kid around, it's really nice.
How do you...
That's one thing that's lacking about female. I know that issue, and I sympathize with them, but there's a certain sense of humor that's lacking. Of course, because it's such an urgent issue, and I don't blame them, but
Sometimes I think with any issue, some people get to a point where they almost you can take something to a point of being valid, and then to a point of obsession, and then to a point of ridiculousness.
Yeah. Well, we women have to make men feel easy too. They have to relax too. We can't just sort of scare them and sort of push them in a corner. You have to say, well, listen, it's going to be all right. The fact that we're going to get some rights is not going to hurt you. We can live together. There's room for everybody. And it's no way to just kill them. You know what I mean? Like, killing men is not going to help.
Do you ever get assailed, though, by women's lib because you are so tied to your husband? You two are almost one.
No.
It's almost come to that point.
They're pretty aware of the fact that I am pretty free and independent with my husband's help, But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not really in the kitchen, all the time. Or,
We have a complete 50-50 relationship.
Do you take out the garbage?
We don't have garbage. You don't have that scene in England. You just throw it out the kitchen window and a man takes it away.
I'm working full-time on my own work, which is good. And together, and I still believe in a peace thing, too. And
I had to learn it, let's face it, I wasn't a natural
he's come from
equality. I come from a class of people that don't consider women to be anything but sort of a lay and something that does the dishes.
Yeah.
But being quite intelligent, I soon picked up
quickly adapted to the situation.
Adapted to the pressure of my wife.
Pressure.
Did he adapt to it readily, or?
Oh,
Well,
did he adapt to it readily, or did he take some working?
He quickly understood, because I just it never occurred to me that there was still a world where, male are male, that male chauvinist attitude,
Yeah.
Come on, you had nothing but that in the art world.
That's
what are you
right. In the
art world, there's an interesting case where they took a female artist and they took a male artist, and they put their paintings up, and they switched the names, and then asked people which painting they liked the best.
Oh yeah.
And they all took the males. And then they switched the names again, and again they took the other painting because it had a male name.
Well, I'll tell you how any guys that are interested in trying to give their woman what they want, or even that give is a bit condescending, but allow, even that's bad.
Allowing is very, very difficult.
Just imagine that it's your best friend, only a guy,
Only a woman, right.
No, imagine your wife is the guy, the best friend you had, or the guy you work with, and imagine what he'd say if you expected that from him. I used to, whenever came into any confrontation with Yoko about something like that, I'd say, well, imagine if I said that, if I expected that from George or Paul or something, or Ringo.
Well,
imagine if I expected them to go and fetch or, say this or
40 or,
they'd say, who do you think you are, drop dead. Yeah. So then if you imagine it, give them that same right, how you treat your friend, male friend, you soon pick it up, You realise you just take them for granted, man.
Yeah. Well, he's adapted himself to all sorts of strange situations, very quickly, and that's what he did.
Of course.
Another thing so funny is that...
Yes, dear.
When I had my first gallery show in New York, and this critic came, I didn't know he was a critic, but he was sort of walking around from Art News, and he's come to me, and you see, because it was such it was a show that nobody's come, really. It was in the midsummer and everything. And I was the only one who was in the gallery, sort of, like I was like a secretary, sitting there like a secretary because there was nobody else. And he's come to me. He thought I was a secretary. He said, excuse me, but do you know if Yoko Ono is a man or woman? It was my one-woman show, So I said, well, I don't know what to say. But, that's the attitude they have. I think he meant as a compliment and said he thought it's a good work, and so maybe, that kind of thing.
I thought we'd do here is you were suggesting that the two albums fit together. So what we thought we'd do is we'd play two tracks together.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's great.
You chose two tracks, right?
Well, I think, My Mommy's Dead is a quiet piece. If you start with that and then end with Don't Worry, you'll see what it's like. Bring it on top of it, Don't Worry, which is on the tail of my LP.
It's like a loop on the very end of it after the last track almost, Don't Worry.
Yeah,
so what should we do? Start with John's and then bring in the other one on top of it.
Right, and let's see what happens.
Okay, it's WPLJ in New York.
So that should be easy.
Okay, let's try it.
Yeah, that's all it was, actually. The rest of it's dogs barking.
Yes, I think that's more subtle, just that one Don't Worry, and dogs barking like crazy. Well, if you say, my mommy's dead,
What other tracks would you say that if people are at home they should throw together would make a good combination?
Well, I think when he starts to shout in Mother, the first track, you put Why on, it would be great.
The end of Mother and the beginning of Why.
Yeah.
The end of Mother and the beginning of Why. Let's try that.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Actually, we've never done this, It's just that the tracks matched each other.
Yeah, you saw it.
The Penguin. This was never released here, right?
And I don't know who released the paperback edition of the books in America. This is an English one. They just re-released it, see.
So that's actually three works that you had?
No, there's two books.
Spaniard in the Works.
And In His Own Right. And they were both put into paperback. But they make a better job of it in England. They sort of, over here it was like a sort of toilet paper. I don't know who put it out, actually.
Oh, and so this is a combination of the two?
Yeah, right.
Why haven't you written any more books?
I just never got into it, or never really took the time to do it. See, I used to do a lot of it while on tour, sitting in hotels and things like that. And I don't get that kind of time now. But Yoko and I are going to make a movie. She's done a book called Grapefruit, and we're going to make a movie in his own Grapefruit. And I'll sort of direct the bits that are to do with my book, mainly, and she'll do the bits that are from Grapefruit.
How old is Grapefruit? You wrote it quite a few years ago, didn't you?
1964. It was published in 1964, and it was written, since 1950-something. I can't but you see, I read it, like 2 months ago, and it still works in a way, So in those days, people just didn't understand the idea, and I feel pretty bitter about that.
Do you look back at old works and somehow say, hey, that was good? Or do you say, hey, that was horrendous?
It depends what old work you're looking back on. The Grapefruit's just coming out again in paperback in England in July. And I think it's coming out in paperback here, maybe around Christmas, hopefully. Simon's used to get off your heads. Good morning, there's traffic in the East Village.
Right in his. While they're doing that, if the action goes through, will Apple still exist, or will it be completely dissolved?
This is not to do with Apple. This is to do with, I don't know how much I can say about it. This is to do with Northern Songs and Mac Len, which are both to do with the publishing of Paul and my song. I think it has something to do with Paul and Linda writing the things. I'm not sure, you know. I think it's because Paul and I own Mac Len between us, most of it anyway. Apple only owns a bit of it. But that Apple Jazz, the receiver thing, the receiver has not received Apple. He's received the Beatles partnership, or whatever it's called, which is 5%
of Apple.
Yeah, no, 5% of the Beatles used to be one whole thing. Yeah. And they sold 80% to Apple, as if Apple was a separate company.
I see.
And the 5% remaining is what the receiver is in charge of, which really all it did was, like, pay for your auntie's flowers or get the window pane fixed. So that's what he's doing.
What have each of you done in your creative life that after you did it you said, wow, that's it, man, I can't top that?
Oh, never. You never had that feeling.
You never had that feeling. Did you ever have anything where you said, I'm happy that I did that in my lifetime, that I was able to create that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I usually get that about whatever I'm doing at the moment. I mean, I never get that sort of overwhelmed by it. I was pleased with the last album I did. I mean, I'm not going to have that much sort of emotion or insight laid down on an album every time I put out an album, you know. I mean, that was 1 in 10, probably.
It was one of the most totally honest albums.
Well, that's I'm probably not going to go through exactly that kind of experience again. I mean, unless I suddenly see myself anew in 4 or 5 years or something, you know. But so I won't be doing that every week.
John's last album, I thought, was pretty something else, and I thought it would be very hard for him to top it, you know. But he immediately made another album now that's, you know...
Well, the thing I thought was interesting was the fact that everybody for years had spent time trying to figure out what Beatle lyrics meant. I mean, the constant tearing apart of them and trying to figure out... And this album, they couldn't possibly do that. It was all right out there in the open.
I read something, I don't know whether it was by Weberman, I read something the other day where somebody was writing about the last album I made, and seemed to think it was all about Dylan or something, and they had all incredible stories about the lyrics.
That was Weberman.
Well, it's nothing to do with Dylan, it's about me, you know. And then I had this guy called Claudio who'd been sending telegrams for 9 months to England saying, I'm coming, and I only have to look in your eyes and then I'll know. So last week he turned up at the house, you know, and he looked in my eyes and he didn't get any answer. And he thought the whole thing was about him, and I said, no, it's about me. And I said, it might sort of strike a corresponding chord in your experience too, because we all have fairly similar experiences. But it's basically about me, and if it's not about me, then it's about Yoko and me.
You know, it's a dialogue in a way too.
I said, you better get on and live your own life, you know. I mean, you're wasting your time trying to live mine.
Okay, I think we got those 2 tracks queued up now, okay? Start with one and then we'll do the other over it, okay? I think both albums will sell equally well now as people go out and buy 2 phonographs, and they do fit.
It's fantastic.
You know, what I found out in doing a music show is that they segue beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
That almost any track from your album and a track from your album just segue perfectly.
Well, they were being recorded almost simultaneously. You know, I'd just finished a track, and I'd be, like on that Y, the first track of Yoko's, I'd just be gigging in the studio with the musicians, with Klaus and Ringo it was. And then Yoko just running from the control room where she'd been sort of A&R in me or whatever, and join in, you see. So it'd be the sort of, we'd almost have the same tone. Would be almost same emotion would carry on right away. So I did a track and she did a track right after like that all the time.
Does your voice ever give out on you, Yoko, when you're doing those tracks?
It gave out the other night after Fillmore.
Oh yeah, well look, you see my voice is sort of funny now, right?
Yeah.
You see, the thing is, when an opera singer or something, when they're in bad condition or something, they think, well, they can't sing, you know, so when they get 40, they can't sing or something. But you see, I discovered that any sound that comes out of your body is interesting, you know? So even when my voice is like this, there's a way of singing that sort of, you know, because what you're doing is to communicate, you know, your emotions. You know, and it's when an opera singer or something tries to always best foot forward or something, it's ridiculous. We're dealing with human emotions, so sometimes it's an ugly emotion or, you know, but ugly beauty and that, you know. It's all right. Anything is beautiful, you know.
But your voice has...
convey.
But your voice does give out on you sometimes when you do these...
Yeah, but I mean, whatever, the voice that gave out is beautiful, beautiful meaning, you know, like it conveys still. You know, it communicates too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even if when it's like this, you can say, you know, let's get going, you know. That's what it's about.
What I'm trying to hesitate doing is asking the common questions.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter, because I always think a lot of people still haven't heard the answer to that common question, so I'm not against it.
You can answer in many levels, you know what I mean?
Well, I guess the most common question would be asked you is, how do you feel about the splitting up of...
I think it was a very healthy thing, like almost an amicable divorce. It hasn't been that violent, you know. Court cases don't really involve, you know, us personally. It's usually lawyers sort of bickering in studios, or not in studios, in court or whatever.
Have you ever been together as the four people in recent times outside of court?
No, we haven't. The four of... Even before the court thing, I mean, it was seldom when four of us would be together. It was usually two or three at the same time. I mean, I think Ringo saw Paul at Mick's wedding, just for a couple of, you know, half a day or something. But I've spent a lot of time with George and Ringo, that's for sure.
In fact, there's been a rumor, according to Rolling Stone, that you've been in the studio recording together.
No, well, George was playing guitar on my session, you know, when I was doing the new album, so that's what it was.
Okay. We've got to take a break because we've got the network news coming up, and then we'll be back, and we will go to the phones at that time. Our number is 541-8150, and my guests are John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and this is WPLJ in New York, which is 95.5 FM stereo. We were talking about couples working together.
Yeah, I just said, you know, it's great that Alex and his wife is working together, and beautiful, you know.
It's happening a lot, and I think it's healthy. I think it really is, especially, let's say, where one person is in the public eye. Because then there's kind of a feeling of both accomplishing something together. And I think it really helps a marriage. I think since we've done this show together, our marriage and our togetherness has probably improved 8,000%.
Yeah,
it makes you wonder how couples survive, you know, when as soon as they get married, they're pulled apart, you know, like the husband either goes to work or in the city and she remains in the suburbs, or he's working in Africa and she's in Israel, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, how can you have a relationship with somebody you only see every now and then?
And also, you know, there's some couples that both work, you know, like actors and actresses, you know, but one is working in Paris and the other is shooting in L.A. or something. You know, that we don't, you know, I don't think we can do that either, right?
Yeah.
We don't
of course, I think it's up to the individual, too. Some couples can survive like that and survive longer that way, and others can't.
It doesn't surprise me that so many sort of couples split, whether divorce or whatever, when they live in separate lives.
Well, I think there's a great danger, too, and it does happen. Somebody becomes famous, and then all of a sudden you hear about the imminent divorce from the childhood sweetheart, right?
Yeah.
And I think that happens because the childhood sweetheart does stay home and isn't able to grow with the person. Because obviously when you're thrust in the limelight and all of a sudden you got managers and agents and you're being hustled around the country, your whole lifestyle changes and you become more sophisticated or whatever. And meanwhile, she's sitting home and she's still that childhood sweetheart and hasn't been able to adapt to this until you're two different people.
You were saying something very beautiful, you know, about scorpions and all that.
Yeah, when I was a kid, every now and then I go to sleep at night and hear a click click under my pillow, and there'd be a scorpion there because we lived in a very wet area. And my father always used to, as soon as he found one scorpion, would go looking for the other, and, because scorpions always travel together, male and female. And when one dies off, the other will soon die off after that. And they have that kind of relationship. So I kind of think that we're getting a lot of scorpion couples around, like you and John and Anita and Abby and you know, my old lady and I.
Yes, we think that we're a typical couple of the next stage or whatever, you know, because we're East and West, you know. That mixture is good, too. The fact that I think the whole world should mix more and more, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that helps.
It does help.
Yeah.
Let's go to the phones, because there are a lot of people out there that want to ask you some questions, and they'll probably ask better ones than I've been asking. Boy, you really are belching this morning, man.
Yeah, okay, well...
It could be that Pat Boone button you're wearing.
I feel like throwing up.
Go ahead.
Would you want to carry on? I'll just throw up.
Okay, you have a question for Yoko?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on?
Yeah.
First of all, I saw John and Yoko, I saw both of you with the mothers the other night, and I really dug it.
Oh, great. How'd you like, what did you like about it?
What I like about it?
Yeah.
Well, I really dug the part when you were in the bag, because I could really get into the sounds. I really could get into it. It was really great.
Well, it was a big band and all that, and I was worried if my voice would carry through or not, but did it?
Yeah, I can hardly hear you.
She wants to know...
Where were you?
Where was I?
Yeah.
No, he said he couldn't hear you now.
Oh, I see.
She wanted to know if her voice carried into the audience.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Did it? Oh, great.
It was fantastic. After the concert,
Yeah.
You say The Dream Is Over in the album.
Oh, yeah, that one.
And, what I want to know is, how can I end the dream? Because, I am totally slipped into the Beatles.
Why don't
how can other people who I'm friends with do the same, who are,
Yeah, but you see, the thing is that everything, moves, and if you're growing, you just have to move on, a dream can be like, your hometown or something. You have to grow out of it and everything.
Yeah.
And it happens.
I know, but it's really hard.
It's a very healthy situation. And the fact that you were in a stoop, in a dream, was bad, because that means that you were sort of living in an illusion,
Yeah.
And that's an illusion.
I've been living in an unbelievable one, because, I've gained this reputation of, the fifth Beatle around this neighborhood. And people will come up to me who I don't even know and say, Bob, let it be. It's an unbelievable thing.
Yeah.
I'm saying, let what be? I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
Well, I think, it just happened naturally, Anything that's not natural just can't sort of happen this way, people say something about, I broke up the Beatles or whatever. But
Did you get a little tired of that?
Yeah, but, that one I've heard a lot. But, how could you break something that's, that's growing and that's going, I think all the Beatles outgrew themselves, outgrew the group, rather,
Yeah.
And it was a healthy thing. Look at George. He's doing well, I don't think he wants to go back to the old days when he was sort of whatever.
I keep on, part of my whole dream thing was, the Beatles one day going to be Sgt. Pepper's. I've been into this thing for about a year now. I keep on thinking, they're going to be Sgt. Pepper's one day.
But, the point is, that's another thing. You know how people have scapegoats and people have stars and that? It's because they don't want to face themselves, you know what I mean? You should start to look at yourself. You're not that bad, And look at yourself in the mirror and start thinking about yourself instead of looking at a star, because, the reason why people rather watch the star than themselves is because you don't want to face life,
Yeah.
And that's unhealthy,
Yeah, definitely.
You might be the poet, and you have to start sort of get going.
Yeah, I just have to get up and do it.
Thank you for calling.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
You feeling better, John?
Yes, thank you.
Is that the way you start your morning every morning? Just throw up and then start the day?
Right, the summons did it. How did you like, receiving summons early in the morning?
I think I got up, smoked too many cigarettes, and drank too much tea.
They were very clever to catch us here.
Well, I don't know why they didn't just send it to the office. I would have received it.
Well, I don't know.
I think they provided.
Right.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
I'd like to ask John a question.
Sure.
John?
Yeah?
You were really great. I can't believe I'm speaking to a myth.
A myth?
Yeah.
Myth world or myth universe? Thank you.
Have you heard Ringo's new single?
It Don't Come Easy?
Right.
Yeah, of course I've heard it.
What do you think of it?
I think it's beautiful. I'm very proud of him and happy that he's having such a success with it.
I think Ringo's really felt the influence of you guys, of you and Paul and George.
And vice versa, you know. I mean, we all helped each other.
I think what's phenomenal is the flip side of that record.
Oh, yeah, that one's a beauty, isn't it?
It's warm, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's about you.
We're all very pleased, you know.
Yeah, Ringo really...
And he produced it himself, wrote it himself, and it's delightful.
And another question.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few groups and people who are sort of imitating the Beatles, like Emmett Rhodes. Have you ever heard of Emmett Rhodes?
Emmett Rhodes?
Right.
I've heard the name. I've not heard any of his stuff.
He sounds like Paul.
Oh, good luck to him, you know.
You should listen to him. Maybe if you want to get together with the group and Paul and want to get together.
No, I don't want to recreate the past. You know, I want to be me now.
Oh, I see. Well, I just heard your album recently, and it's a great album.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for calling.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
This guy, it was just before, you know, said that he was in the film when we performed, like 2 days ago. It was beautiful. He liked it very much.
Great.
This is WPLJ in New York. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Is that?
I was it.
Yeah.
Gee, I'm just thinking of all the people. I know there are people crowding in the halls and so on, and you just, of course, threw up in our bathroom. And I'm wondering if people are going to relish that bathroom for months now.
I'm donating it to the Wildlife Fund.
Well, it's healthy to throw up, yeah.
Right. Does one good once. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good morning. Hello.
Hello, is this WPLJ?
Yeah, you're speaking to Alex Bennett and John Lennon's here and Yoko Ono. Go ahead.
I'm Pete Bennett.
What? Is this Alex Bennett?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
My father, Pete Bennett, is here, too.
Oh, can I ask a question of John Lennon?
Sure.
Go on.
Well, I have a friend who's been playing a lot of your music for me for a long time.
Lousy music?
That a lot of your philosophies are in your music. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. I suppose that you could say that.
Oh, well, because, you know, he has just about every album you've ever put out with the Beatles, you know, with yourself.
Oh, that's good.
And, you know, he always picks out little passages for me if I'm, you know, stoned out or tripping or something like that.
I see.
So I just wanted to, you know, ask you about that.
Well, what do you want to ask?
You know, if you really did put your philosophies into your music.
Well, my music is an extension of me, so in that way it is, yeah.
Okay, thank you a lot.
Pleasure.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Recently I've been wondering exactly how the Beatles are as people. How the Beatles are as people, not as Beatles.
Well, you only have to look at our individual work and you'll get an inkling.
Right, well,
the Beatles don't exist anymore, so...
Having you in New York, like, for the past week or so,
yeah.
I was at the Fillmore, and I saw you there also.
Oh,
and listening to you and Yoko on the radio, it's really hitting home that you really are people, you know?
Sure, I'm glad.
And I just for one, as someone who's like followed, like, say, the myth.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible to see that you're really real, you know?
Yeah.
I'm glad we're here, you know, and we can communicate.
I mean, we were always people, but it was just there was such a big noise going around us that people thought maybe we weren't people.
Right, and it's nice to see the two of you. It's nice to see the two of you together all the time.
Thank you. We enjoy it.
I enjoy it too.
Good.
Thank you for calling.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Do you find that at times that maybe became a problem when you were still interested in keeping the group going, that somehow when you would appear, you tend to break, there is a myth when you don't appear. I mean, people build you up larger than life.
Yeah.
Then when you appear, you're not larger than life anymore.
Right.
Did you find that at times you were sort of hesitant to appear in public because you were afraid you couldn't live up to the expectations?
That's why the Beatles stopped appearing in a way. I mean, we did stop at one time because we just got sick to death of it, but it got into a thing where people expected so much. You know. That's why the concept of the Plastic Ono Band, where anybody is in it that we happen to be with at the time.
You're in it too.
You know, I mean, the initial announcement for the Plastic Ono Band was, "You are the Plastic Ono Band." That's what the advert said. I don't know whether we put them out over here. And I don't want people to expect something of me, you know. So the funny thing happened. The first, we did a show together, Yoko and I, in Cambridge, where she had been booked to do her stuff, and I went along as the band, you know, and just played feedback. We never told anybody. But the first major appearance we did was in Toronto. And the people there wanted us to do, you know, like, I don't know, Hey Jude or Come Together or something, but I didn't know any of them. The band had never played with us before, so I just did some old rock numbers I knew, and Yoko did her thing. And then, so they got used to that. And then we appeared at the I played there with Klaus Voormann and Alan White, Eric Clapton and Yoko and myself. And then we appeared in London at the Lyceum Ballroom with the same 3, 4 or whatever it was, plus Delaney and Bonnie Band, plus some of the Who, plus George Harrison, and about 15 and 20-piece band.
That was recorded, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've got the tapes at home. I haven't remixed them yet, but they didn't get the voices properly, which is a drag. But then the crowd there were complaining because I wasn't singing Blue Suede Shoes now after the Toronto album, you know. Yeah. So I don't want to be stuck with no image of the Lyceum thing. We did 2 numbers, Cold Turkey and Don't Worry Kyoko, and they both lasted 20 minutes each, which is what we felt like doing then.
And Phil Maurice
we did a completely different thing again, you know.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to do concerts?
No, I didn't plan to go on with Zappa or the Phil Maurice, you know. I prefer it just to happen when I feel like it, not to have some date where so-and-so is expected of us.
Do you like getting on the stage, though?
I like it less than I used to, but I still feel like it now and then. I mean, it's quite a strange situation to stick yourself on one stage and be judged by a whole lot of people, and, you know, you're sticking yourself in the stocks there. You know, I get a bit sick of that, you know. To me, making records is like writing poetry it was in the old days. It's something private, and I release it or publish it.
But now, you see, he's talking and he's thinking intellectually like that. But, you know, when he was at this, Phil Maurice, you know, until the last minute, he wasn't going to do anything. But he just felt like doing, because he just wanted to communicate.
Well, when I saw Zappa doing his thing, I thought, wow, let's get on.
And we got on,
Good morning. Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah.
You're C2 John and Yoko?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, you're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask you, Yoko, are you getting into any of your, like, theater piece happenings and poetry, any kind of stuff like that in New York?
Well, you see, I play it by ear, you know, whatever happens, you know. I mean, what's happening now is a big happening, you know, like whatever I'm doing with John is a happening, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just did this Phil Maurice thing, and as I was telling, I mean, like, we didn't expect to do it, you know. Until the last minute, we didn't know that we were going to do it. But it happened. I mean, that's the best way that happenings happen, you know.
There was quite a happening on this radio station on Sunday night, too, with Yoko and I, if any of you heard it.
Yeah, we did that 2-hour thing, was it?
Yeah, that's enough of that.
Could you kind of run down, like, what therapy was like at Time Institute?
Well, it's hard to run down what it's like, because it's different for each person. For me, it was a good experience, and it helped me a lot. I don't know whether it'd help everyone, you know. It just sort of worked for me. And I enjoyed it as much as you can enjoy torture. I can't really run it down. You know. Well, I mean, it's very hard facing up to 30 years of falsehood or repressed emotion, which is what virtually it is. It's like, to put it one way, it's like a 6 or 7 month acid trip, but very slow, and you really see.
They really cut through all that, huh? They really...
I didn't. No, we didn't. They have to beat you every time you say bullfrog. It's amazing, isn't it?
They allow it on the BBC now, don't they?
Sure, they can say a lot on the BBC.
Thank you for calling.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yoko, could you read something from Grapefruit for us? Will you come back? Would you like to?
Oh, what shall I read?
Anything that makes you feel good. What are you going to read us?
Grapefruit is a book of full of instructions, and these are sort of extra instructions that would sort of help, help to survive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just read quickly several, actually. One is called Sun Piece. Watch the sun until it becomes square. You know, it's just one instruction like that. The other is throwing piece. Throw a stone into the sky high enough so it will not come back. You know, that kind of thing. But there's one that is a letter. And this is a letter that I sent to a gallery owner, you know, sort of a gallery guy. And it's called Brief Meeting. Dear Nicholas, I think we could finally have the brief meeting we were discussing about. How about tomorrow night, 8:15? It'll be very brief, naturally. As usual, you are busy and I'm nervous, which amounts to the same thing. I cannot stay here longer than 20 minutes, so please come on time. It is best to come by foot, I think, since it is impossible to get a taxi around your place at that time. It is only a 5-minute walk from your place. First, you make a left turn at the end of your street on the right and go about 50 foot and turn right. You will see a sign saying one way, that is where you turn, and go until you see a coffee bar, not clean, on the left with a sign saying closed all the time, but it's not closed. You will see people in it. Then you go through the narrow side street of the coffee bar. This is a shortcut, and you will come out naturally on May Street. From there, it's just a matter of walking straight on until you hit Park Road. My building is the one on the first left. The above instructions are viewing the matter from my side, as it is too complicated to think from your side for me, and I don't want it to be too confusing. So you will simply have to reverse the instructions where it says right to left and left to right. But otherwise, this should get you to my place. Hoping to see you then, sincerely.
For a brief meeting, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Good morning. Hello.
Oh, Yoko. Hi, Bennett and John.
Hi.
Hi.
2 questions. First, John.
Yeah?
What kind of reaction did you get from your Rolling Stone article? And are you sorry about anything you said?
No, I'm not sorry. The reaction was stupendous. It's still reverberating around the world now. But it was like I was constipated for all those years, and I just got it off my chest, and that's it. I don't have to do it again, and I just feel better for doing it.
Oh, I see.
Nobody was injured for life by what I said. The close friends of mine understand what I was doing. That is the other Beatles, and they accepted it for what it was. And all is over, you know.
Okay.
Okay. One other question.
Yeah.
Pardon my ignorance. You don't have any children, do you?
I have one child, a boy, from the previous engagement.
I see. How are you bringing him up, in respect to religion? What are you teaching him? God to believe in, or if he should believe in a God, or are you going to let him make up his own mind later?
He'll let it. I wouldn't shove religion down his throat at all, you know. I mean, if he wants to pick it up, he can pick it up, but I'd tell him to try and avoid it. But actually, my ex-engagement is doing most of that. She has him, and I see him at weekends normally. But I don't think she would ram any of that stuff down his throat.
John is giving a kind of moral support, and I think John is very liberal, actually, in that sense,
A dirty word.
In a way, but because, all it matters is for him to be happy, right?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
It's very, very hard to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Well, Yoko just said as long as he's happy, let him do his thing. But I'd try and keep religion out of his life. It causes too much pain for people.
But if he asks you, if he finds out from his friends, his little playmates, about Judaism or Catholicism or any of the Far Eastern religions, and he asks you about them, or he asks which is better or which is right or which is wrong, what would you tell him?
I'd tell him that they're all as right as each other if he's interested in that thing, but I would prefer him to deal with his life from day to day and not be dreaming of something in the sky or something that's going to come when he's dead. But the main thing is to live now.
But it doesn't hurt to know things. You see, like, John would probably explain what they are. Like Judaism, all right, the structure of Judaism is blah, blah, blah,
Blah, blah, blah.
Thank you.
Can judge for himself.
Okay, thank you for calling. I was mentioning to John that you still seem to be an inveterate punster.
Well, it must happen naturally because I don't even notice it anymore. It just rolls off,
I heard someone once say that it is, at one point, the most intelligent form of humor, and it is also the most terrible.
I would agree with that. Sincerely.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Yoko, put your head on.
Oh, get your headphones on. Wait a minute, she's got to get her earphone on.
Yoko, you on now?
Yeah, I am,
I brought you out, and I have to say that my 22-month-old sister loves you.
Oh, great, thank you.
Stay in the room, whenever I play records, she loves it.
Which one do you like?
22-year-old sister. 22-month-old.
22-month-old.
22-month-old baby sister, love. That's fantastic.
That's the greatest compliment, right?
Shows how pure it is.
John, whatever happened to Pete Best?
Pete Best? Well, nothing happened to him.
Well, what did he do after?
At one time he went touring in America with the Pete Best Band, and all that jazz. And I suppose he was hyped and hustled, and then he was married and he settled down and was working in a bakery, and then I just read something about him recently, but I can't remember what he was doing, I can't remember.
Oh, but he's not in, he's not in the band anymore.
No, he was writing that he's glad, by the way things turned out, he was writing he was glad he missed it all.
Oh, okay. And when's your album going to come out? Do you have any idea?
Probably September.
Okay.
Because we're making a movie of it at the same time, which will probably be on TV around the same time.
Yeah, and one other thing. Who played organ on Isolation?
That was me, baby. That was me.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Nice talking to you.
Same to you.
Good morning. Hello.
Hello?
Yes. Wake up. Hello.
Have you had breakfast yet?
Hello.
Hello. We're on. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right.
Can I speak to John?
We're on. You're speaking to him now.
John.
Yes?
About Abbey Road.
Yeah?
Did you, who's singing Oh Darling, you or Paul?
Paul singing that.
Paul singing it?
Couldn't you tell?
No, my friend said it was Paul, but it sounded very much like you.
No. Well, we do tend to sound alike sometimes. Now, that's Paul.
Oh, and also, how come you suddenly, at the beginning, threw Pete Best out of the group?
Because he couldn't play very well.
Is that why?
Sure, why else?
Oh, I don't know. Also, about the...
That's really bringing up an old story.
Pete Best, that's two.
Now would you like to
know? Pete Best.
Now would you like to know the social significant meaning of I Want to Hold Your Hand?
Right.
That means lay it on me, baby.
This does not have anything to do about that thing at the end of Strawberry Fields, which says I buried Paul.
It doesn't say, it says cranberry sauce. Cranberry sauce.
Is it?
Yeah. Well then.
Do you plan on doing any personal tours anymore with, like, the Plastic Ono Band?
I don't plan on it. You never know, I might go on the road with Zappa or something. All that.
What about in the city now? Are you going to be doing any more personal appearances anywhere?
No, we didn't plan what we did at the Fillmore, No, I won't be doing any more.
Can I speak to Yoko, please?
Yes.
I'm here.
Yoko?
Yes.
I just want to tell you that you're very beautiful.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. I'm sure my husband loves that.
Yes, I agree.
Very beautiful person.
Thank you.
And John?
Yes?
Out of all the Beatles, you turned out to be the one with the most beautiful mind.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I'm
Same
very
to you.
happy with that.
Very nice talking to you.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Hello.
Alex?
Yeah.
Yes. Last time I got cut off about half an hour ago.
Okay. Well, you made it now.
Okay, well, anyhow, I had a couple of questions here. All right, Yoko?
Yes?
Really can't hear you well. All right, well.
Can you hear me now?
Let me put the speakerphone in the middle of the donut.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Not too well, but I can make out what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyhow, I first heard your music through John's single.
Yes?
And a couple of friends and myself, we had a very unusual experience. We'd never heard, well, we'd heard a little bit of your stuff before, but
When?
never really listened to it.
Yeah.
And it was Touch Me, and
Oh.
we put on the headphones and turned up the volume like as loud as it could go.
Oh.
On about the second or third listening. And the physical experience was really amazing.
Oh, that's
the
great.
way to hear it. Loud and right on.
Yeah.
And, I just wanted to ask you if you thought your work could be described strictly in musical terms.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's music,
I mean, how would you describe it in musical terms?
Oh, it's just simple communication, I'm trying to communicate.
Emotion.
And, I think our emotions are so complicated, 20th century. I don't think you can express it in simple 4 beats and that, you know what I mean? And, music is getting too formal. So I try to put my emotion into my music in exactly the way what an emotion is, you know. And it comes out like that.
One of the things Yoko says is, like, if you're drowning, you don't say, would it be possible for somebody to come over from the land there and help me, because at this moment I'm sinking in volume 2D of water? You just say, help!
You know,
and that's what she's saying.
Sort of the extreme emotion. And we all have extreme emotions. We're just living on the edge of extreme emotion every day, you know. And we translate our emotion into a very sophisticated language. And when I see you, maybe I want to say, how are you? You know, I want to talk to you, you know. But instead we say, oh, how are you? I'd like to talk to you very much, you know. And it's false emotion when you put it in language like that.
It's the old Lenny bit about saying good night. Everybody goes, good night, good night, good night, good night. Nobody means it.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody really says good night.
Yeah.
You know.
And I just find myself stuttering in my mind before I speak, you know. And when I speak, I translate my stuttering into so-called refined language. But that has nothing to do with my emotion. And I like to really stutter, you know.
Do you feel, Yoko, though, that your music may be ahead of its time? I stated when I first heard it that the first time I heard it, I said, I don't get it. I said, but I just think, come 1980, this is going to be the norm rather than the exception.
Well, I think it's a very normal
And then
music,
as I got used to it, I really got to dug it. And the last album I thought was phenomenal. I thought that you had finally gotten it together.
I don't understand.
But do you think maybe it's still ahead of its time?
Well, I don't know, you see. I didn't think in that terms. I really think that I'm trying to be honest to myself. And if I'm honest to myself, because I'm a human being, I think anybody can understand it. It's very simple music to understand it, you know?
What she had to do to... she got to a state that she was so far out that she was holding silent concerts. And then it got to a point of how many silent concerts could she do?
You know, the music
and
of the mind.
For her, she had to regress to expressing it with her voice. And then again, to put a beat on it. And even then, it's sort of 10 years ahead. But what I don't understand is our generation who dug Wop Bopaluma, Pop Bam Boo, and Long Tall Sally, which didn't really mean much, especially to... people who weren't black. All those expressions, those were sort of black underground expressions. It was just pure sound. Richard just sang with a pure screaming sound.
Yeah.
It wasn't that different. To me, Yoko is just now Little Richard doing Wop-Bopaluma.
Touch Me. If you heard Touch Me, I'd appreciate if you hear my album, because Touch Me is one of the pieces in my album. But the other, songs have something about it too. And to me, my music is not an intellectual music, I mean, it's emotion,
Did you get the answer then?
Hello?
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Did you get the answer?
It comes across, so you can just about hear it, but...
Well, turn your radio up. What is it?
We're on a delay. Thank you for calling.
Question?
One more question? Okay, quickly.
Yeah. Let's see. I understand that you deleted the two F dashes on Working Class Hero for some EMI version.
No, Working Class Hero went out as it was. Some of the radio stations deleted the word or put it in backwards.
I think he means in Britain where they deleted the words on the printed lyrics.
On the printed lyrics, that did happen.
That was all it was.
They're insane, aren't they? I mean, they put F dash 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 on the lyrics sheet inside the album, but they put the album out. They did the same in Spain and all the other sort of...
Oh, right. I thought it was something worse than that. And also, do you think your new album will be more of a musical statement than the first was?
Yeah, I think there's... you could say there was more sort of music or tunes in it, because I'm feeling more tuneful and relaxed. You'll hear it when it comes out. But
when should that be?
It will be September, probably.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, thank you.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you. I did all the commercials for this hour, didn't I? Yeah, of course I did. Right.
Don't forget Jaime's Butcher Shop. At East Avenue, you get raw pig and tomato ketchup.
You did an American accent there.
Oh, really? It's simply wonderful of you to notice that.
How do you... I always am interested in having someone who is British or from some other country do an American accent.
Yes, I understand.
Could you do a little more of an American accent for us?
Well, if you asked me, I couldn't do it. You see,
it just has to come out.
On me. Yeah, you know, I'm not an faith mate. I like it.
Everybody talks about. Let me say the WPLJ in New York. Everybody talks about the. About your recent album as being like your first solo album, but really it wasn't. I mean, you had Two Virgins, and you had
Virgins, Life with the Lions,
the
wedding album, Toronto Live in Peace in Toronto, and then that album.
And numerous singles.
So that's how many? Two Virgins, Life with the Lions, wedding album, Toronto, and the Plastic Ono one. That's 5.
On that Life with the Lions, the thing that I liked was where you were reading the newspaper clippings.
Oh, yeah. We were in hospital at the time, Yoko and I together, and Yoko just had a miscarriage, and we were reading out the newspaper clippings about that, I think. That's what it was. Yeah.
Very effective.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Do you feel those albums were, well, except Two Virgins, of course, wasn't ignored because you had a cover, and it became
it was like a myth more than...
Yeah, but you know,
but did you feel that the other albums were kind of ignored in a way?
Well, let's say they sold 40 or 50,000 over here, which is pretty decent for something so far out, you know?
I think Life with the Lions is much more far out than my recent album, you know.
Yeah.
See, what we did was really go more commercial with Yoko's stuff.
Yeah.
But I think in the future people would buy them, you know.
And that newspaper thing, you know, I was in a hospital bed, you know, and I was feeling pretty sort of doped with all the stuff that they gave me and everything, and I wasn't in my best, you know, condition or anything. But because we relaxed, you know, and that was like, it shows that how we work with each other, you know. Somehow sort of we sparked off each other and relaxed and everything.
In fact, that was recorded on a cassette machine, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
I think as somebody, one day I was talking to a newsman, I was mentioning that it just seems that the world is becoming a theater of the absurd, and he said, no, it always has been. It's just we have more microphones to record it.
True, that's true.
And the use of, for instance, a cassette recorder to record a momentary emotion and then put it on a disc, I think is a fascinating prospect. Yeah. We were talking earlier about, you know, that you've worked with film, and we were talking during a break about videotape, which I've just gotten into, that I find the most amazing single tool that I've ever found.
It's beautiful,
you can shoot it right now and play it back right now, and you can let people watch themselves. I remember one night we were sitting around eating, and somebody had an apple, and we were passing the apple around, and I somehow was photographing this with the videotape recorder. And so then I said, let's play it back. And as we played it back, we were passing the apple from one to another as it was going on the screen. And it was the weirdest feeling in the world. Well, it was kind of like it was a mirror, but it wasn't. We were imitating ourselves, being ourselves on the screen.
That's beautiful,
Ringo and I used to film videotape ourselves playing snooker, you know. It was crazy, see. It's beautiful, you know, because it's a very slow game.
I did the station break.
I did the station break.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
I'd like to speak to John?
Yeah, you are speaking to him. Hello.
I heard on your radio station that you were coming out with a poster. Is it true?
With a what?
That you were coming out with a poster.
A poster?
A new one of you and Yoko. And they said sometime this year, but they didn't say when.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's possible. It's the first I've heard about it, but we'll do it.
I see. I wish you and Yoko lots and continued success. And I hope they extend your visa longer than until Tuesday.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wednesday at least.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Can I speak to John?
No.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there anybody that you haven't done so already with that you'd like to cut an album with?
There's probably
songs or something?
There's probably a few people. I can't think of them offhand, you know.
No. Okay, just curious.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak to John.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'd like to compliment you and Yoko, you know, on your work.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to ask you, like, what's the best way for an amateur, like songwriter like myself, like 17 years old, to make it?
I've no idea. There's no cut and dried formula. If there was, everybody would just be making it, you know. You just have to carry on.
Like, I know, like, you're a very honest type person with your music and, you know, like, it's your ideas. And so are we with our music, you know, I guess our ideas. Like, we only have, like, me and our guitarist. I play guitar and another guitarist and a girl singing.
Yeah.
And, would you mind listening to some words I've written?
What, now?
Yes.
Yeah, if you like. The best thing to do is go to Washington Square and sing like all the others do.
Yeah, well, like, see, like, we've had a lot of people, you know, listen to us, and people dig it, but, like, most people are into, like, the grand funk stuff.
Well, do it, you know. I don't know what you expect from it, but you can do it.
Yeah, well, I would just like, you know, maybe, like, your opinion, if I guess I can expect, you know, your opinion.
Best luck to you.
Okay, can I read it?
Yeah?
It's called The Dedicated Farmer.
What?
The Dedicated Farmer.
Farmer, okay.
A family within his crops he lives, known only to himself, the dedicated farmer. Lets himself be disregarded among all who claim to be highly regarded. With his well and his will, he fills himself with all the ideas he sees of being a joyful pebble in the earth, a friendly ant society. The second verse goes, a family without his crops he dies, known only to himself, the dedicated farmer. Sees himself being regarded among all who claim to be very regarded. Without his well and his will, he empties himself of all the ideas he sees of being a joyful pebble in the earth, a friendly ant society. He sees an angry boulder in the earth as himself in society.
Is that the end?
Excuse me?
Is that the end?
Yes.
Well, you know, offhand, I just like the first verse, and that would do.
Yeah.
There's no point in repeating it.
Do you think by, like, giving tapes to, like, record companies that could get us anywhere?
I don't really know, you know. I mean, in the old days at Apple, we used to try and listen to everything, but then you found yourself spending your whole time listening to other people's stuff and never doing any of your own. I mean, the record companies do listen to some of it, but I really don't know, you know. I've no idea how you do it, really, you know. I mean, we had Epstein, who sort of took us round the companies, and we just auditioned for all of them, and they all turned us down, and finally we had another chance with him, and we finally got on. You really have to just keep pushing and hope for the best, you know.
Yeah, it's like a big struggle.
Thank you for fight, all right, you know.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Wasn't the first producer ever to produce you Bert Kempfert?
Oh, yeah, he did it in Germany, but he thought we were too far out and bluesy, you know, so he preferred Sheridan.
So you just backed him up?
Yeah, there was a couple of tracks we did, you know. I did Ain't She Sweet and...
There was a rumor, I think I read it in Rolling Stone, that there was some bootlegger who has tapes, Beatle tapes that have yet to be released, that have not been released. Is there a lot of Beatle material that hasn't been released?
Well, I can't think what it is. The only tapes I know of are Hollywood Bowl, Shea Stadium, and somebody that did something on us in Italy, where it's all the same songs over and over again anyway. There were no other German tapes that Polydor didn't release.
I mean, is there any original material, new material that has not been released?
The only stuff that would be some auditions we did for Decca around in 61 or 2 or something like that.
But in other words, there'd be no recent material, stuff that you had kicked around in the studio and not completed? Or...
Yeah, the only unreleased Beatle track that I've got any clue about is that some lousy 12-bar.
That's it, huh?
Yeah.
So, because it was said there at the time that the breakup started taking place that there were like 12 hours worth of material yet to be released that hadn't been released. You'd like to hear it. When was Across the Universe recorded?
It was first recorded at the end of the White Album, I think. It was just I couldn't get it on because we'd done so much material. And then I gave it to this Wildlife Fund. It wasn't a very good recording, you know. By the end of the double album, we were really sick of recording. It was a shame because I liked the song. And I gave it to these people for a Wildlife Fund or something. And then I tried to do it again when we were making Let It Be. But anybody who saw the film saw what reaction I got when I tried to do it. So finally, Phil Spector took the tape and did a damn good job with it and made a fairly reasonable sound out of it. Then we released it again.
Some people complained about Spector's work on that album.
Well, I'm sure anybody, I think Paul started all that off by blabbing off about it. But if anybody listens to the bootleg version, which was the version which was pre-Spector, and listens to the version Spector did, they would shut up. You know, if you really want to know the difference between what the tapes are so lousy and so bad, though none of us would go near them to touch them. They'd been lying around for 6 months. None of us could face remixing them. It was the only album.
It was a monumental task, I understand.
Oh, it was terrifying, yeah. Spector did a fantastic job on them.
Chronologically, Abbey Road was really the last album, wasn't it? I mean, Let It Be was technically, it was recorded before Abbey Road.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what about it?
Well, no, I was just, because people tend to think of Let It Be as being the last recorded works of the Beatles.
Actually,
where
Abbey Road was the last job, yeah.
How did you come to doing that medley? How did you get the idea to put it together in that form?
It was mainly Paul. It was just these bits of songs left over that never been finished, you know. I think that's what Paul did on Ram, really, which I don't dig, you know. Just taking half a song and putting a few guitar bits in and then thinking it's an opera or something.
Of course, you've been known to take bits of a couple of songs that you've written and putting them together, like A Day in the Life was that way, wasn't it?
A whole song out of it. I think that's different than just sort of stringing all bits together, you know.
Happiness is a Warm Gun seems to be one of those kinds.
Yeah, right, but that had a whole story to it, you know. I mean, I don't think it has the same feel as the Abbey Road thing. And it was all still in 3 minutes. I really like trying to say it all in about 3 or 4 minutes. You know, it's like a short news message rather than a prolonged novel.
I think that, it's been said many times that sometimes a short statement is far better than a long, extended statement.
I prefer newspaper headlines to the stories.
Right. We have about 2 or 3 minutes left, and I just want to open the microphones to you to say anything you want to New York City.
Well, how you doing, New York City?
Yes,
it's a beautiful
ugly
place.
Beauty. I mean, you know, it's a real gutsy city. Yeah.
I've just got to see the village for the first time, all the different parts of it. And it's really a groove, you know. I'm really jealous that I didn't have that 10 years that Yoko had in the village. But I might have been a different guy, better or worse. But it's a beautiful place, the village, and I don't think people say, oh, it's all over, the village scene, but I don't think it is. The kids are still coming from out of town to the village, and they're singing. There's a nice guy singing the Pope smokes dope and all the such songs in Washington Square. It was beautiful, you know. I mean, it's a great place, and the East Village is beautiful.